Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. It's evening time and I've just decided I want some chocolate fudge. Now I have my own little recipe, which is really just a modified recipe from the old Hershey's cocoa recipe from the 1950s. It used to be on the box. Now I used to make that all the time. I started, I think I was probably about 12 years old, and my mother didn't like it so much because she said I used all of her sugar, but because it does take 3 cups of sugar. But anyway, I want to show you the ingredients you'll need. Now this is my version, okay? You're going to need 1½ cups of whole buttermilk, 1/3 of a cup of Hershey's cocoa. Now that's not sweetened or anything, it's just a regular unsweetened cocoa. And you do want to use Hershey's, okay, because it makes the best fudge. 3/4 a cup of chopped walnuts or pecans or whatever nuts you choose. Or you could not put the nuts in it at all. 1/2 a stick of butter. Now you want to make sure you use butter, not margarine, because you want it to be real creamy. So all you have to do is just cut a stick of butter in half. That's going to be 1/4 of a cup. And I have got these recipes written down and I'll show them to you later. 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract and just 1/8 of a teaspoon of regular salt. And the other thing you'll need is some type of square Pyrex dish. Now this one is 7 by 9 and you want it well buttered, because this is what you're going to pour the fudge in after it cooks and cools and starts to get hard. Now the other thing, and I hope you have this, if you don't, I'll show you what to do. A candy thermometer. And we're going to cook this to the soft ball stage. Right there. I don't know if you can see that or not. But if you don't have a candy thermometer, we can do the soft ball stage by simply dropping a drop into the cool water, and I'll show you how you'll know when it's about at that stage and how to test that. Alright, we're ready to get started. Now the first thing we're going to do is put all of this, the first few ingredients, in a heavy pot. Now that's got a bottom that's, you know, kind of a thick bottom. This is Gordon Ramsay cookware. So you'd need, you know, a little bit bigger than a regular saucepan. And if you don't have one this big, you could just use it like the Dutch oven type. Alright, first thing we're going to do is pour in 3 cups of sugar, 1/3 a cup of Hershey's cocoa, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Now I am going to give the recipes at some point here. 1½ cups of whole buttermilk. We're just going to pour that in. Now I'm going to put my burner on medium. And when you first start cooking this, until it gets to a full rolling boil, you're going to need to stir it constantly. So I'm going to just leave the camera on until it gets to that point, and I'll just talk about something to fill in the space, I guess. Alright, I'll make sure I get all that buttermilk out. Now this front burner is my slowest burner, so I'm going to try to speed it up just a little bit. My back burners work best, but it's hard to videotape from back there. Alright. Now, I think I was about 12 years old the first time I made the fudge, and of course I used the exact recipe on the Hershey's cocoa box. I was really disappointed to see that they don't put that recipe on there anymore, because I think so many people now make fudge using the little Nestle's little Kisses, you know, those little itty bitty tidbit things, and marshmallows. And I've made that before too, but I really like this better. and it's also very creamy. Now, making fudge from scratch requires that you really have to follow the recipe exactly, and you also have to follow the procedure exactly. So what we're doing right now is waiting for this to come to a full rolling boil, and you want to be careful and not splatter it way up on the pot. Now when this starts up to the full rolling boil, it's going to come way up, and that's going to take care of any sugar crystals that are around the pot. Now I've seen recipes that say put a cloth around a knife and go around and get all the crystals off. Well, if you just don't get any up that high, you're going to be all right. And the reason you don't want the crystals is because then you'll end up with sugary fudge, and there's nothing worse. Still tastes good, and I've made it when it got sugary. So you just want to guard against that. And also, cooking to the soft boil stage, what will happen is it's going to come way up, and then as it's getting ready, you'll see it going down some. Now, this is going to take some time. And during this first stage, you want to stir it the whole time until it actually starts boiling. And it will stick on the bottom if you don't stir it. But once it comes to a full boil and the sugars dissolve, you won't really have to worry about it sticking to the bottom. Now, have I made it when it stuck to the bottom because I didn't stir it all the way? Yeah, I've done that. And have I made it when it got sugary? Yeah, I've done that too. But over the years, having made it so much, I know certain things you just cannot do. Okay. Now my sister, my older sister, I talked with her today, and she's watched some of my videos on her iPhone, I think she said. And one of the things she said was she didn't want to look at the recipes and what I was doing. She would really rather see my face while I'm talking. And I said, well, Carolyn, you know, the star of the video is what I'm making, not me, you know. And that's really why I do that, because you don't really need to be looking at me. You need to be looking at what I'm doing. I mean, you know, the purpose is so that people will, you know, learn how to make the recipes. But anyway, of course, she's my sister, so anyway, I got kind of tickled because the next thing she said was, well, I don't need to see the recipes. I know how to make all your recipes. And she does. So it really didn't, you know, that didn't quite work. And also my motive is in helping to teach some of these younger women and men whose mothers worked and they really didn't have a chance to teach them how to cook. I mean, they probably taught them some things, but it really takes a while to teach somebody how to cook things, you know? I mean, you don't just go in the kitchen and you start cooking right away and know what you're doing, because there's so many techniques, you know, to cook at all different kinds of things that you don't just know automatically. Now, once you've got the basics of cooking, then you can then, you know, come up with your own recipes. And that was my ice maker, sorry. And at least the dogs are not barking tonight. So anyway, that's my motive, to show how to cook, you know, different things from scratch that a lot of young women really never learned. And also, I don't think they require home ec in school now. Now, when I was in junior high and in high school, home ec, you had to take it. You had no choice. We had to learn to sew, how to cook, and we also had to learn how to entertain. I mean, we had to learn how to have a dinner party, and yeah, it was pretty involved. So, and I don't really think that those classes are required of young women now. And of course the boys had to take shop, so they had to learn how to change the oil in their cars and how to put on a fan belt, and they would actually make, you know, do carpentry stuff. I remember my uncles made cedar chest and things like that was required. So now none of that's required. Now we didn't have computers, of course, when I was in school, and so as a result I had a hard time learning how to use the computer several years ago. I had a hard time even learning how to operate this camera right here. It took me several days. I read the instructions and all that, but it was hard to figure it out. So anyway, the young people know how to do all of that, and I'm amazed at that they're so proficient on computers and anything electronic. Like, I don't have an iPhone now, but my sister's got one, so I might need to get one. I don't know, I might need to get one. But, you know, we just work with a computer, and our cell phones are just, you know, the very simple kind that old people have, you know. It's got the big numbers, and it doesn't really do anything but call, and then you can answer the phone. So, anyway, all right, this is getting good and hot now. Again, this is my slowest burner. I'm sure on your stove this would come to a boil a lot quicker. Alright, let's talk about the walnuts. Now, I like pecans. They're my favorite nut. I really like pecans, and of course all over this county where we live they grow pecans. But in the last several years we've been in a drought situation, so the pecans haven't been quite as good as they usually are. But I found out that walnuts are a lot healthier for you than pecans or any other nut other than, I guess, almonds. So I decided these are just English walnuts, and so I decided I'm going to start using the walnuts. And I do like them okay, you know. Now, in this fudge, you really don't have to put any nuts in it. You know, it'll be just as good without nuts at all. But I do like nuts, so anyway, I've actually had to turn that burner up a little bit. But probably your stove works a lot better than this does. My front burner is one that just doesn't heat as well as the back two, or the front one, the bigger one over here. So you still probably want to just put this on medium. Now once it starts boiling, again, I know I mentioned this before, but the whole thing with fudge, and you know, there are two reasons that fudge fails when you're making it from scratch like this. Well, actually there are three reasons. One is people don't cook it to the full soft boil stage, which is 240 degrees. And the other reason is that when you get to the cooling process, you can't stir it not even one time, not even once. Because if you do, it will get sugary. And people tend to think, well, let me just stir this butter in here a little bit, you know, and that's absolutely a mistake. You really, once it reaches a soft boil stage, you cannot stir it at all. We're going to cool it, and even when it's sitting in the sink. Now, once it's cooled to you know, room temperature, or it can still be a little bit warm, and you start beating it, you can't stop beating it. I mean, you beat it by hand, but you can't stop, because if you do, it'll turn sugary on you. All right, now we've got a bowl coming on. See, now nothing is stuck to the bottom. And I'm going to just still keep rolling on this because I want you to watch how high up this comes. And I'm going to turn my burner back down to medium now. See how it's come up? And it's going to cover those sides where some of the sugar got up on the side, and that will take care of any sugar that you don't want to get down in there when it's still in a crystal form. Alright, now, see how high up it's coming? That's why you want a pot at least this big. I'm going to turn my burner down to just medium low now because boiling is boiling. 212 degrees, that's boiling. So, I'm just going to make sure it's covered all on the sides. And we're just going to let it continue to boil until it starts going back down. That's when I'm going to start testing it. And that's when I'm going to put in my candy thermometer. Now this is a candy thermometer and a deep frying thermometer. Now this is very hot, and you really don't want kids around when you're making this because you could really get some bad burns if it's spilled on you, okay? Alright, so I really talked all the way through that. I did good. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, I wanted to show you how the mixture had settled down a little bit. Now it did come almost all the way up to the top. In fact, at one point I thought I was going to have to put it in a bigger pot. But I would suggest if this is the first time you're making it, you make it in one of these big pots just like that, okay? Just to be sure. And also, I wanted to see if you could see, sorry about the jiggling, but I'm having to hold the camera now and it's hot. I have put my thermometer, candy thermometer, right there on the soft boil stage. And I think you can see that little red line, see it? The little red line. It's got to get all the way up to here. Now right now I've got probably about 7 or 8 more degrees to go. And what's happening is, of course, a lot of the moisture is evaporating, and as it's evaporating, it's getting a little hotter and a little hotter. So the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 minutes of cooking, it seems like it's taken it forever to get up to the 240 degrees. But it's getting close, okay? So, we'll be back in just a few minutes and I'll show you how to test it. And it has been boiling a good 20 minutes, maybe longer. Alright, the fudge has boiled down now and it's almost at 240 degrees. But if you don't have a candy thermometer, this is what you do. Take a bowl of just regular cold water from the tap. Take a spoon and just put 1 drop in. See if you can pick it up. And see it's not quite there. See how it just kind of rolls around? Need just a couple more degrees. Now each time you test it, use a different spoon, okay? Because you don't want to do anything that's going to cause anything to crystallize. Okay, we've got about, just a couple more degrees and it's going to be ready. And we'll test it again. Because I don't really trust the candy thermometer. I mean, it could be off a little bit one way or the other. Alright, let's try again. Again, just a cup of regular tap water, a little bowl. Get you just so it's going to drop off 1 little drop. See if you can pick it up. Okay, see how that stays in a little ball? You can kind of roll it around and make a little ball out of it. It's ready. Now my candy thermometer says that it's probably about 238 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead because I definitely don't want it overcooked. Now at this point, just turn your burner off. Don't let the spoon come near it in any way because you don't want to stir it at this point. Again, this is 1/2 of a stick of butter or 1/4 cup. Just take that and drop it in. Now, we're going to go right over to the sink. I'm going to see if I can carry this camera. I'm going to go right over to the sink. and put it in a sink of cold tap water. Doesn't have to be, see if you can see that. There we go. And you're going to let it sit here until you can pick up the pot and put your hand underneath it and hold it. In other words, it could still, the bottom of the pot, be just a little bit warm, but you don't want it completely cold, but you don't want it too hot either, because if you take it out and it's too hot, it'll take you forever to beat it, you know, to the stage it would need to get to. All right, I'm going to let this cool probably 20 to 30 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, the fudge mixture has cooled down to really just lukewarm. I can put my hand on the bottom of the pot. It still feels a little warm. Now you can see I haven't stirred it at all. But now we're getting ready to beat it. Now's the time to add the 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to try to not spill that. Just go ahead and dump that in. Now you're going to hand beat this. Now I don't recommend using a mixer, because if you do, it might get hard on you in the pan, and you don't want that to happen. So what you're trying to do now is just incorporate that butter into the sugar and the cocoa and the buttermilk. And that it really makes it a little easier if you go ahead and add the nuts. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. And then you just have to keep mixing it. Now, just before it's ready, see how shiny it is? It'll start turning a little dull. Now, as soon as you see it doing that, you must immediately dump it into your buttered dish, just right away. Because if you don't, it'll actually get hard in the pot. And it is a little hard to mix, but I'm going to get my pan over close so I've got it right ready. And it can turn just, you know, from one stir to the next, it can get dull. But just as soon as you see it doing that, you'll want to dump it into your buttered dish. I think I've got the camera on zoom. Whoops. There. I'm just going to keep stirring it. And I say beat it, but it's really too thick to beat. I'm just going to leave the camera on now so that you will be able to see it when it gets dull. And I know this is a long video, and making fudge from scratch is pretty involved as far as the procedure. Now I know that those recipes where you add the chocolate chips, I mean, that's just easy as pie, but it's not as good as this, okay? It's really not. Once you've made this kind successfully, then you'll like it better too, I feel sure. So all we're doing now, see the bottom of the pot is definitely still warm. So, if you let it get much cooler, when you put it in the sink, it becomes really hard to stir up then. Sometimes if you do like this, it helps it. Now some people just go ahead and stir it around a little bit and go ahead and, you know, dump it in their bowl or their plate. And if you do that, it really doesn't turn out as well as if you just keep stirring it. And again, this isn't something that you want kids involved in, because you've got a mixture here that's 240 degrees, and if they spill it on themselves, it will cause a bad burn. I've never spilled it on myself, but I had a friend that I went to school with. She used to make this all the time too, and she didn't let it get completely cooled, or down to where it was just warm, because she was wanting to eat some of it really bad. And she had it in her lap, and she was beating it and spilled it on her leg, and ended up with a terrible scar on her leg. And my mother knew her mother, and her mother told my mother, and Mama had about decided, after seeing, the girl's name was Judy, after seeing Judy's leg, that she didn't think I was going to be able to make fudge anymore. So, alright, it's trying to lose a little bit of its gloss now. It's definitely thicker. So it's really about time. See, when I stir it, like, I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably not. When I stir it like that, I can see parts of it losing their gloss. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and dump this in. Now see how it's getting a lot thicker. Now if you leave it in the pot too long at this stage, of course it'll just go ahead and get hard in the pot, and then you'll be dipping it out with a spoon. So we're just going to go ahead and dump it in. Get this out quickly. I'm going to have to spread it out very quickly. This is trying to get hard. See if I can get any more of this out. And I call this milk chocolate because I only put half the amount of cocoa in it. Alright, let's see, a lot of it got left in the pot, and that's because it started getting hard really fast. I get to lick that off. So good. Alright, here it is. You can see it's already pretty much hard, and it's still actually a teeny bit warm. Alright, we're going to let this cool a little more, and we're going to cut it up into little slices, little pieces. Okay, I'm ready to show you the recipe now, so we'll be right back. Okay, here's the recipe, and that's the original recipe, and this is my version.
Can I have this pot?
Take the pot. Alright, somebody's going to lick the pot, I see. Alright, here's the original 1950s recipe. 3 cups of sugar, 2/3 a cup of Hershey's cocoa, and that's the unsweetened kind, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 1/3 cups whole milk, 1/4 cup butter, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and 1/2 cup nuts, and of course that's optional. Now here's my version. My version is the milk chocolate fudge. It's the same recipe exactly, except I use whole buttermilk, and I use 3/4 of a cup of chopped walnuts. Now here are the directions, and I think you can maybe pause the video and get that. And here's the rest of it. Alright, and there's the fudge. You see how it's lost all its shine now. And it's already hard, and it still feels actually a little bit warm. And my husband got the pot, okay, because I was videotaping. That's why he got the pot, okay? Alright, we'll see you next time. I hope you'll try this. I mean, it's hard, okay? And but it's so worth it. When you learn to make it, then you know how long it's going to take you, and I mean, it's just worth it. I don't know any other way to say it. It's worth it. All right, see you next time.